Google Drive is trash.
Mm-hmm.
These are all great, but the absolute best resource that you have is each other. And
Absolutely.
that's sort of why we started this podcast, because the
Yeah.
two of us just talk about this shit all the time.
Hi, Bethany.
Hi, Dad.
Well, today we're going to be talking about various tools that we use in selling and health IT. But before we get stuck into that, welcome to our audience to Haverin About, a father-daughter podcast where we talk about healthcare, health IT, and the business of healthcare. So, welcome.
Hello. Yes, it is not to date us in any one particular time, but it is that time of year when I am using a multitude of tools to hide various packages that are arriving at my house from a very inquisitive 5-year-old. Yes, between the delivery tracking apps and the garage door opener app to open it and then have somebody run outside really quick and shove the packages in the garage and then close them. And then using our little elf that is here to make sure that people go to bed on time.
Yes, your behavioral modification elf.
Exactly. It's just encouraging, just pushing in the right direction. That's what any good sales manager does, right? You just incentivize to the other side.
Incentivize certain good behaviors and disincentivize others.
Yeah. But no, it is I've got to imagine, well, in some ways, I've got to imagine it's easier in some ways to keep some of that magic alive at this time of year with the multitude of tools and apps and everything that is available to us.
Yeah.
But also to reiterate, there's nothing in the presents until Santa brings the magic.
Absolutely.
On Christmas Eve. So even if you were to find a package of something or a box of something, there's nothing inside.
No.
Santa has to bring the magic.
Yeah, every time.
Anywho, let's talk today about some of the tools and the resources we use, not to pretend to be elves and to hide magic, but to bring magic to our clients. Yeah.
And discover the magic and mystery of health information, news, and information. I think that's the first topic we're going to talk about is, you know, where do you find out what is going on, not only with your clients, but your competitors and government and industry news that might be relevant to you. Because I think that was one of the first things that I was at a disadvantage when I first moved here to the States, because I didn't know any of the resources. So I had to rely on my colleagues a lot. And it was 2002. So, yeah, sure, there was the internet, but it was still relatively thin in terms of what you could find there. And there were still physical books. I remember, like, you know, there were directories, hospital directories that were still a physical book. And that certainly was true in the UK when I left. So those were there. But now there is, in many ways, an overabundance of resources. So, you know, I know you've been doing a lot of work recently across a number of market sectors within the healthcare industry. What are the resources that you've leaned in on or used either when you were early in your career, like 5-10 years ago, or that you are using now to try and fulfill things?
Absolutely. I think the gold standard, if you're in healthcare technology, it's HISTalk. It has to be. They are so good, so just focused on what they do. They don't try to do a million different things. They don't try and have podcasts. No offense to our podcast.
Yeah.
But they really are just so focused. And you know, you can go there every Monday, Wednesday, Friday and get what you need to get. And on Tuesday and Thursdays, you get different things.
Yeah.
And that has always, always been my number one advice to any interns that come in or anyone that is new to the industry who join the companies that I'm working for is you need to go and sign up. And if you need to research something about a company, go there put their name into the search and look up all the articles that are about. It's nice because, with the exception of a few little side comments, or if you go in and read the comments that people leave, people definitely leave very impassioned comments on certain articles. It's fact. This is the news that is happening in the industry, and you need to be aware. You need to be aware of some of the M&A that's happening, some of the big sales that are happening. So HISTalk is the gold standard. There's nothing better than it.
Well, and the fascinating thing is HISTalk was one of the first things I found in the early 2000s when I was here. And at that point, it was a email newsletter that we got. It hadn't migrated to an online presence. And the person who created that and is still the principal writer, editor of it, started it as a passion project just because he kept collecting pieces of gossip or doing bits of analysis and thought, I'm pretty sure other people would be interested in this. And so he started a newsletter. And so I've been a subscriber technically of that for 20 years, something like that. And I know that Mr. HISTalk, which is his code name, is still very active, and he's gone through a variety of iterations of writing and producing different things. But the format is very much, as you say, the same. He's subsequently gathered some collaborators that work with him and become a little bit more professional, but it's still a very, very small editorial production team who actually work on producing that. And the thing that is great about it is he picks up lots of gossip just because he's been around 20 years and it's a kind of like no BS type of vehicle for passing on information, and it's current. So I think that's great. And he is not at all afraid about people posting either in their own name or anonymously. He's done interviews with company CEOs. So you get quite a lot of variety in terms of what HISTalk produces.
It's like an anti-pay to play as well, as far as I'm aware. It's very much, you can put an ad on there, right? Like you can pay for that.
He allows some corporate sponsorship, but it is purely on the basis of, hey, you can support me, but it's not going to change what I'm going to say about your company.
Yeah.
And there's no kind of, serious advertising. It's just literally, these are my sponsors. So I've received money from them, but I swear to you, it's not making any difference to how I treat or comment on, whatever it is that they're up to. And I think that that's important. They also have had in the past, have had a presence at HIMSS, the big annual conference.
HISTalkapalooza.
And HISTalkapalooza used to be the party, unofficial party that people wanted to get a ticket for. And that usually was sponsored by, a vendor sponsor or consultancy sponsor, somebody that ponied up the money to be associated with it because it became so popular. And he awarded prizes each year for various categories, which were usually quite funny, some of them, and some of them were, a little more serious. And he used to award the Mr. HISTalk and then a Miss HISTalk.
I am the reigning HISTalk queen because after the year that I won, there were no more HISTalkapaloozas. So technically, I have held the title for a long time. And it's only because I have really fabulous shoes. It's very sparkly. Gold Converse.
He and his colleagues had a thing about shoes that whenever they were going around in terms of looking for fabulous shoes that were like, man, those are really, awesome, beautiful, whatever it might be. And also comfortable shoes, because when you're at one of these big exhibition conferences, being comfortable on your feet is hard sometimes, particularly for ladies, if they want to be stylish. I've seen many people crippled at the end of the day by wearing 4 and 6 inch heels.
I'm sure we'll do a conferences episode in the coming months as conference season is upon us. But thank God that we don't have to wear heels to conferences anymore. People can just wear Cute sneakers. It's
Yeah.
amazing. But I still have my HISTalk Queen sash. Pride of place in my office.
We'll get that out for the conferences special. You can
One of
wear it
them, yeah.
for the whole episode.
If we ever become big enough, it's going to be Haverin About presents HISTalkapalooza, and we will be the
That
sponsors
would be
to
awesome. Yeah, that would be
Frankenstein it
awesome.
back to
We
life.
need a few more subscribers and sponsors before we get to
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's get back to the industry sources. So, where else do you typically go for your news when you're searching?
I think Becker's is fabulous. Again, it's a lot more, press release,
Yeah, that's a bit more
news,
corporate-y.
more corporate. But what's nice is that they do have different kind of subsections. So the Becker's ASC site and conference and
Yep.
newsletter and all the stuff that they have, that's fabulous if you're selling into ASCs, and they've got
Mm.
a variety of other ones. So a big fan of Becker's. Healthcare IT Today is pretty good. Oh no, what are the other kind of newsy sites that you go to?
Fierce healthcare, and then
Yeah.
there's a number of the kind of what I call politics policy aspects. So, like Axios, for example, has a section called Vitals, which is all about healthcare and the business of healthcare. That can sometimes throw out some really interesting things because they sometimes will do quite investigative reports on certain topics. So if there's been a scandal of some kind or another, then I've found that Axios will sometimes be bold and actually do some proper investigative journalism. Now, sometimes it's a swing and a miss, and it's like, that looks like it's coming from a biased perspective. But, you have to take everything that's out there and at face value these days and assess it your own way. But I think that there's those kind of resources there. If you're in some of the other healthcare verticals, i.e. not the provider space, I know there are similar resources for the payers. I mean, payers tend to also look at Becker's and some of those news resources, but they've got things like there's a payer section of Modern Healthcare that captures a lot of information there. I think there's Health Affairs is out there. So there's a variety of resources there that allow you to go there. And the same is true of pharma and the medical devices industries. They each have their news outlets, and I'll put a list in the description of some of the ones that I'm aware of and familiar with. So I think they're sort of plenty of resources out there. The big challenge these days is increasingly a lot of them are moving to what I call AI production. And so therefore you do have to parse through and work out. It's like when you see almost identical copy coming from 3 or 4 of them, it's either been a news release that's been regurgitated from, a vendor or an organization of one kind or another, or they are kind of like feeding off each other. And that's another downside of what you need to try and sort of work out and parse through is just because you see the same story reported with the same facts doesn't necessarily mean that's confirmation. It just means there's an echo chamber being created.
Yes.
And that's not a political stance. That's just a fact of what's happening within the industry journalism in general, which again is one of the reasons I like HISTalk. I mean, they don't mess around. Their content, yes, they'll cover a press release and they'll say, hey, this is a press release and these are the facts. But any opinion they give or any of analytical content, it tends to be them as human beings who are producing it.
Now, with that said, though, it is exciting to read some people's opinion because sometimes you will agree with just like with regular news, sometimes you will agree with what someone has to say about what's happening in the health tech space.
Yep.
Sometimes you will not, and it's good to know both sides and make your opinions by yourself.
Yep.
One Substack that I love just because it's informative and insightful, even if I don't agree with the take 100% of the time. I usually do.
From the Haverin About Substack.
Aside from the Haverin About
Written
Substack,
and published by your dear
which
Papa.
is so fabulous. Other than that one is Health API Guy, Brendan Keeler.
Yes, Brendan Keeler is smart guy.
Super intelligent. He knows a lot about the industry, and you can tell he's passionate about it. And that's what I love. I love when you can tell it's not just AI slop or someone being like, oh, this is a very, Epic is going to do blah de blah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, why are we saying this right now?
Yeah. Yeah. And Brendan has got quite a bit of insider insight because he's a former kind of relatively senior developer out of Epic. Not that that's his home anymore. And so
One of the
therefore
Epic Illuminati.
yeah, he's part of the Epic Illuminati. I
There's
like that.
Epic Illuminati and Cerner Illuminati.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you and I are neither of them, but I know that they
No, and
exist.
back in the day, there were Siemens Illuminati and McKesson Illuminati, and if you hang around long enough in the industry, you'll come to realize there are all these alumni groups that get created. Some of them illustrious and part of Illuminati, and some of them just poor Joes and Janes trying to make a buck. But proud of the work that they did in a period of time. Back to Substack, I mean, I follow a couple of others. I mean, obviously, AI is very hot topic at the minute. There's a guy that I've mentioned before, Sergei Polyakov. He's very opinionated. He can get quite edgy about some of the stuff. I mean, I know that he did quite a critique of the various ambient and voice technologies that are available in healthcare. And so there's him. There's also in a more broad sense, from an application of AI and GPTs and LLMs, Maria Sukhareva. She's just such a fascinating writer. I really enjoy it. Industry-wide, Trey Rawls on Substack has got a great podcast. So mostly articles that he produces, and some of them are very long form and dense. I mentioned that in Andrew Sang's message the other day. Andrew Sang, another cool writer. So there's a variety of them there. Now, Medium is another place you can find good content. Tends to be harder to find healthcare technology related stuff. There's a lot of healthcare content there, but healthcare technology tends to be harder to find on Medium. So I think that it's a question of going there. And typically it's either informationally driven or opinion driven.
Yeah. Well, and the other good place for opinions is LinkedIn, right? It is the business social media of choice, for better or worse. I'm going to throw my hot take out there. Love LinkedIn. Love the Microsoft owning company. 80% of the posts on LinkedIn are AI bullshit, and you can skip right through them.
Yes.
And I'm going to say 15% of that remaining 100% is stuff that someone's company's marketing person has said, everyone should do a post about blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And then there's a nice post. And if you're friends with a lot of people from the same company, it's like, oh, look, it looks like they have a new case study out because everyone's posting about it. And then there's 5% that is very interesting, and you have to dig for it a little. And I would actually say more interesting than some of the posts is if you go through to the comments, you will see people who are not posting on LinkedIn. They're not going up, and maybe they're reposting some of their company's stuff, but they are commenting on other people's. And sometimes it's fascinating. And I'll say as well, some of the bullshit AI posts where it's like, just comment sales guru if you want me to send you my 10-page ebook, whatever.
Yes.
Some of the people commenting on that, I'm like, you are quite a high up executive at your company. Why are you commenting? Or you have nothing to do with marketing. Why do you want that?
Yeah.
And so it's interesting sometimes just to see what people, sort of like Instagram, right? Like if you are of a millennial or below generation, there was very much a thing when you used to be able to see you used to be able to on Instagram see all the likes that someone had made on every photo ever. And so you could go, if you were interested in a young lady or a young man, you could go to their Instagram profile page and you could see all the photos that they liked.
Yeah.
And there was very much a thing of like, oh, why is that guy liking all those whatever
this is
photos?
Scandalous. I knew nothing about this.
You didn't know that?
No.
Well, maybe. Maybe it's good that page doesn't exist anymore. I don't know.
True.
But no, it used to be that was
even
all.
When? No.
But you then see everything.
I've been out at the dating pool for 40 odd years now, so.
It's also interesting for your friends. You'd be like, why did they like that? That's weird.
Yeah.
But that's the way of the world. And I'm sure there's probably an app or something, some sort of service where you could pay someone to troll and see
Yeah.
who's liking what or whatever. But on LinkedIn, you can see all that. You can't go to someone's page and be like, show me
Yeah.
everything they've liked, but you can see all their comments
Well,
if
I
you
do,
click
and
around.
I do agree with you that the comments are very enlightening. Unfortunately, you have to wade through all of the, because since LinkedIn introduced the auto response, and I try to never ever use the auto response in any of my things, like the congratulations on your new job.
Congrats! Exclamation mark. Congrats!
Yeah.
Exclamation mark.
Yeah.
Congrats!
Yeah.
Exclamation mark.
And you're like, I mean, either be genuine in your response or hit a like. Don't do the fake. Well, because what it's saying to somebody is, oh, you took 0.25 of a second to click that, didn't you? Okay. So
That's
if
etiquette.
I know I'm being very,
Maybe we
very
need to do an
cynical about it.
episode all about LinkedIn etiquette.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the other thing, because I've tried to research, because I tend to write mostly, I don't know, 75% of what I put into LinkedIn, unless it's for this channel, whereby I've got a lot of stuff I need to recycle across different platforms. 75% of what I write.
You sound like such a boomer right now.
I know.
Who writes?
Bethany says, if you don't subscribe, I'm not allowed to make any more dad jokes.
Which honestly might be a selling point. But still, subscribe anyway, please.
Like I like grammar, I like syntax, etc. Occasionally, I get lazy and fast, and bad things slip through, but as in like bad grammar. But on the whole, I tend to write in paragraphs and sentences that span more than 6 words and things like that. I mean, horrible things from the current writing standards that the algorithm so loves. And now I've noticed that the LinkedIn algorithm has become really weird, because now to actually get exposure on LinkedIn, because it's sitting there and it's judging what you're writing and deciding whether it wants to show it to people, even all of your followers. It's like I've got, sort of like almost 3,000 connections and over 3,500 followers because I've been on LinkedIn for so long. The algorithm, I'll put out a post that I think is pretty meaningful and insightful and so on and so forth. I'll get like 6 responses, 300 impressions over like a couple of weeks. And you'll go, but I'm connected to 3,000 people. What's going on? Well, what's going on is Microsoft are getting in the way. Their algorithm is judging your content and saying, ooh, is it worthy?
Yeah.
And so therefore now there are people who are deciphering how that works. And there's a person that you and I both know and follow and have commented on their content, because actually some of her stuff is really good. But she's now got a formula. And the formula is everything breaks down. Sentence, space, sentence, space, sentence, space.
But you're
And the
seeing her
sentences
stuff.
never, ever wrap over 2 lines. Never, ever. And because that's what the algorithm likes to see now. The algorithm doesn't like if you put a link in your post. So now there's a dirty little secret whereby if you want somebody to have a link, you have to bury it in the first comment, because then the algorithm doesn't see it as part of your post. But it's bizarre that rather than just, hey, I got something to say, here it is, we have to try and go, okay, how do I package this to make it appealing to the algorithm? So the algorithm will actually present it to the people that I'm connected to, that I reached. I mean, I've got 17 years on LinkedIn, 17 years since I joined LinkedIn. And I've built up all of those connections. I've built up that reputation inside LinkedIn. And yet Microsoft, sorry, this has become a LinkedIn rant, and I'll stop right now.
That's okay. So outside of news and opinion, I think another good kind of tool set is resource information. I think this kind of in 2 separate buckets. One is contacts, which is so important if you're new business, right? How are you making sure that you're getting the right emails, phone numbers, whatever, people, and then also kind of that more content around software and companies.
Yep.
So I think on the contact side, in health tech, Definitive, old school, RIP, HIMSS Analytics.
The artist formerly known as HIMSS Analytics, yes.
Definitive Healthcare, they're the gold standard. But to be fair, there's a little bit of a cost that comes with them. So if you're at a bigger company...
No. Not a little bit of a cost. A very substantial cost. Their subscription formula is hefty.
Yeah.
And okay, everything has value. It's back to, you only pay for what you get value from. But for anybody small starting, like I've inquired about getting an individual subscription, and it's several $1,000s a year for one seat.
Yeah. It may be more than that now. And it's good value. And if you are a big company
yes,
that's investing in it, great resource. And what's nice about it is it gives you that information about the organization, the hospital, the whatever itself, but also some of that technology info.
Yes.
Not always 100% accurate. Sometimes a little outdated, sometimes a little quirky. But if you've never gotten to use Definitive Healthcare, find a buddy of yours who works at one of the big ones and has a subscription and just ask to take a poke around, because it's fascinating, all the information that they have when you really dig into it.
Yeah, and it's very rich now. I think back in the day when it was HIMSS Analytics and I was...
how many bets?
Yeah, but the main reason people bought into it initially was they were kind of the first people who actually went and surveyed, i.e. called up the hospitals and said, okay, so which revenue cycle systems are you using? Which order entry system are you using? And so on and so forth. So they built up the database that way. Now, it is extensively richer in data now and covers a lot of different technologies, not just the major systems, and also incorporates a lot of the publicly available operating data about hospitals. So instead of asking the hospital how many beds have you got, which the IT department typically does not know the answer to that. And so asking the IT department, that question is fraught with danger. So therefore, they now have got that information coming from other sources, and they're consolidating that, and they have CMS data about profitability and operating expenses and so on and so forth. So if you're truly in the high volume transaction business in healthcare, it still is an incredibly rich one-stop shop for all of that data.
Absolutely. And I'll say, if you're looking for some of that CMSE, Medicare, Medicaid information, a lot of that is publicly available, right? Because it's government stuff. It's a heck of a thing to troll through if you are just downloading those giant Excel and Access files.
Yep.
But it's there. And honestly, with all the GPTE tools nowadays, it's not that difficult to troll through and get what you need to get. I did it for ASCs like 2-3 months ago. I was like, give me all of this. And it but I got what I needed. If you're just looking for contact information, you know your hospitals, you know where you need to go, RocketReach is great. I've had great success with RocketReach. It is a little, I don't know the right word to use, because I don't want to say Big Brother.
Yeah.
It is a little Big Brother, because it will tell you their work emails, which, there's normally a formula. It's first dot last at whatever, or it's first initial last name, whatever. There's normally a formula, and you can generally figure that out. But it will also tell you their personal email, which is fine. But if you are in a work context, do not go emailing any of your prospects or because I have had so many like sales tool BDRE things email my personal email, and I'm like, go away. I don't want you here. I'm not going to respond to you.
Yeah, it's an instant ban on my part. Whereby it's like,
you get junked.
Go away. It's a certain professional etiquette. So maybe that's a kind of lesson. And I don't think we're just being old fashioned. I think that it is a professional courtesy to that not try and use an individual's personal email in a work context unless they have explicitly said to you, hey, I'd love to stay in touch, or what, then sure. But that shouldn't really be part of your Salesforce CRM data anyway. You should, yeah, go ahead.
To go ahead and just throw in here, and maybe this is for a separate episode. Also, don't find them on Instagram. I've had 3 that I can think of off the top of my head from the last HIMSS conference season.
Yep.
Earlier this year. I had 3 different people try and friend me or send me messages on Instagram after meeting me at the conferences. And I'm like, that's weird. I think it's weird. And it's one thing to be like if you have established that.
Yeah.
I'm like, you just met me because I just came to your booth. Why are you sending me an Instagram friend? I am not going to buy your stuff.
Well, what's your criteria for LinkedIn screening? People who request to connect with you. Because I'm fine with anybody following me. All right, that's fine.
I don't think you can even control who follows you, right? You just get whoever.
You can. Well, you can. You can turn it off. You can say, I don't want to be followed. And you can, I think there may even be some filter switches in there. But connections has become wild on LinkedIn as well. So, number one, we have all the AI slop that is like, populating like we discussed earlier on. But I think connections is another interesting one. I mean, I'm all for sales people because I now work for a health system organization. So now I look like an appealing target prospect to be able to go and tap up. And my standard response is, if I haven't met you, if you haven't introduced yourself, if you are very clearly a spammy account that has been set up in the last week and has got the most delightful picture of a young lady on it, all right, but the name is a male name. And I don't mean like, Alex for Alexandria or anything like that. I mean just like William. And there's this blonde there. And I know I shouldn't judge too much. But anyway, the answer is and block. Because I either need to have some professional connection with you. We either have to have worked somewhere before, we have to work somewhere now, or we have to have a professional connection in common, and you are introducing yourself to me and what your purpose is. And then I'll happily talk with you. Like I have had some young BDRs reach out to me, right?
Yep. And I've bought stuff from those BDRs for companies I've worked for, like sales tools.
Yeah. And if they're polite and explain their purpose, I will say, hey, I'll give them a reply that says, I'd be delighted to help you, but I don't think I'm the right person. And then their automatic response is, well, could you direct me to one of your colleagues? And the answer then is no. I am not your sales prospecting tool, right? So just understand that for any of our younger BDRs who are out there listening to this podcast, you've got to think that through in terms of what you're asking of people. Why, what is the incentive for a complete stranger like me, who's a senior professional person in an organization, to help you navigate my organization? I don't have an incentive. So therefore, what was that thing? Sort of something, a rejection will often offend or something. Anyway, I'll see if I can find the quote and I'll put it in the comments. But, I do think don't be offended when I block you out. And I get it. That's part of the game of just throwing effort at the wall, but try and be thoughtful about it.
Absolutely. And I think one of the ways you can be thoughtful about things is by doing the due diligence and research. And I think that's where research companies like KLAS and Black Book are huge resources. Again, if your company is big enough and you have a subscription to KLAS and Black Book, you need to be reading their reports on your whatever it is that you sell, whatever their category that you fit into. You need to be reading those reports in detail.
Yeah. So
because they're good.
If you are confused at all about what KLAS means, it's KLAS, and they are the premier research organization into what technologies health systems are using and which ones they like and why. So there's an awful lot of information there that details how healthcare organizations view particular technologies, particular vendors, and what direction they're moving in. So it becomes a very, very good kind of like Yelp review. Anyway, I might be dating myself talking about Yelp review. But it helps you understand a lot more about your industry. And there's a whole episode we should do on just that, because I have some interesting war stories of having worked for companies and being an executive in companies that weren't well placed in the KLAS surveys and how we try to turn that around. It's very interesting. Some of those companies, the executive leadership just turned around and went, well, KLAS are wrong and they're biased and they're being paid such and such a company and da, 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 da. And I don't believe they are. I believe they truly are trying to reflect the voice of the customer or out there in the industry. And there are lessons to be learned there. And once you come to peace with that, then you can actually develop a really good relationship with KLAS and sort of point out to them flaws in their methodology. Anyway, topic for another episode.
Unless you work for a company in the category of choice, you are number 1 and number 2 in KLAS for like 15 years straight. Then KLAS is great. Their KLAS Awards dinner show thing at HIMSS is wonderful. Job. It's a great time. But no, it's a great resource, especially if you have historically been selling, RCM or EHR or clinical documentation. If you've traditionally been in one specific category and maybe you're taking a new job in a different category, I would say even before you accept that job. But if you already accepted it, it's too late. You should at least research and figure out what you're going to be doing, what you're going to be selling. You should read the reports for their categories because it is very insightful. And it's like any award. There's pros and cons, there's nuances, but it gives a pretty good gist of how health systems and hospitals are feeling about this technology that we're having to sell.
Well, let's move in towards the kind of close of this episode and talk. So we've talked about information tools and resources, whether it be news, research tools. Let's talk about practical tools, because I think that it's interesting as I go back and I think about literally the briefcase I used to take out with me on the road. Obviously it's a nice chummy backpack now, but it literally used to be a briefcase that I would carry with a handle on there, and it had various
so
tools
old school.
I know. I'm just old like that.
Old. I
need to see if I can find some photographs in the basement storage of me in kind of 1990s work attire, for us to take a good laugh at whilst you were off in elementary school. What are the kind of things that are most important to you when you are either meeting virtually or, shock horror, getting on the road?
I think the number one, so you and I both worked for the same company for a period of time.
We did.
And there was the CEO of that company. We had our big user conference in Chicago, which further defines who this person is. But before I went into that meeting, one of the EAs ran up to me, because I'm there 10 minutes early, like, oh my gosh, my client's got a meeting with the CEO. This is exciting. And she came running up and was like, what are you doing? And I was like, what do you mean, what am I doing? I'm here 10 minutes early. My client is here. They're having water. They're sitting down and resting. She's like, where's your notebook? And I was like, it's in my bag. And she grabs a notebook and a pen and shoves it in my hand and says, you will not go in that meeting without a notebook. And this was just like a meet and greet. It was 10 minutes. It was literally for like the CMIO to meet the CEO, to have a little, oh, you're from blah, blah, blah. That's so lovely. I was like, I don't need to take notes. Like, please. She's like, you will take notes. It's like, okay. And so I go in there and I kind of sit and I open the notebook and I like write down their names.
Yeah.
And I just like wrote down a few random things because they were just talking about like sports or something. Like there was nothing of importance to write down, but I wrote stuff down. And then the meeting ended and I got up from like my corner and he like slapped me on the back and said, "I love to see you take notes in that meeting." And like walked out and I was like, okay. And then the EA was like, "I told you." And his whole thing, one of his things was you should go into a meeting. If you're going into a meeting, you should have a piece of paper and a pen so you can take notes. And that is so basic, but it's so important because legitimately there have been a few meetings I've gone into where, you know, for whatever reason, like you leave the bag in the office and then you go to the conference room or, you know, you're moving around. And then inevitably there is always a time where you're like, oh, I do need to write something down.
Yeah.
And laptops are great. And I know you've spoken about your little PLAUD AI microphone.
Oh, I'm going to talk about that again in a second.
I'm not surprised. But sometimes just having a pen and paper is a very good thing. And I said it in one of our first episodes, having an index card and just jotting your stuff down.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Either as notes before you go in, so you've got a reference, or exactly as you say, a blank one to scribble down a few things. At one point in the kind of early 2010s, I actually spent the money on an Aspinall, which is a London leather company, an Aspinall tiny little tablet like this that had a Tiffany pen. This shows you it was a really good quarter, and I was able to go out and splurge on this thing. And it had little sheets of paper, smaller than a note card, that I used religiously for just scribbling down quick notes, or if I was doing numbers, you know, if we were having a discussion about pricing or something, I would use that. I would say that the one other adjunct to that, and it's harder, but it's a segue to what I want to talk about next, is I, as a sales manager, if I was going on a joint call with a sales rep, I would say, okay, there's two of us in this meeting. Only one of us is going to talk, and the other one is going to take notes. So let's agree. Is this customer going to want to talk to me as the senior person, so that because they want to get something off their chest, or they want to, you know, sort of beat us up on something, or whatever else it might be, in which case I'm going to be doing most of the talking. You're going to take notes. Vice versa. If we agree that I'm there just to bolster you, I will take notes. I'm quite happy taking notes and being the scribe, and then chipping in wherever there's a senior comment to be made. And that's one of the things whereby I think I was relatively unusual, because most sales managers go in and it's just like they take over. It's basically they either want to close the deal, or they want to, you know, assuage the customer, whatever else it might be. Typically, a lot of sales leaders travel single-handedly now. They don't get to go with their little posse, either because those posses don't exist or they're off busy doing other things. Same with an individual sales contributor. You're out there, and it's very, very difficult to have a conversation and take notes. Old school. This is the PLAUD transcription device that I've been talking about in one of the other conference sessions. And I just recently got this. Now, I had been using Otter AI before on my iPhone, which wandering around with that. But this thing is so discreet and so unassuming that, assuming you get permission, it becomes the easiest thing possible to say, do you mind if I just take some notes, record some notes? And then it's a single long press. You put it on the table, and the quality of the recording is excellent. So it's been really well engineered. But more importantly, their back-end AI, I was showing Bethany an example of a meeting I was in recently. Their back-end AI is tuned to being able to take that transcription and analyze it in the context of, and understanding the context of it. I got some amazing insights and output from a meeting that I had. And it happened to be an online meeting, so I had my speakerphone there on my speaker device. It was a Logi dock that sits underneath my screen. And so therefore it was a Teams meeting. And even though there was a Teams recording going on and a summarization that popped out at the end of it, the PLAUD interpretation of that meeting was so much more insightful. So, I'm sold on these guys. And yes, there's the ethical part about you need to ask permission to be able to record meetings and for people to say, I'd like you to turn that off now if they're about to share something, confidential or discreet or whatever else it might be.
That's when you need a pen.
That's when you need a pen. So always take those with your pad and pen. But no, I do think that this is something, and I know you came up with a brilliant idea for using this as a sales tool at conferences. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I was saying, could you not just use this as you're either walking around booths or as people are coming up to you in booths to capture? Because, if you're on booth duty, it's a long day.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely do a conference episode here soon. But they're long days and, you have your notebook, but you can only scribble so much down.
Yeah.
So I am interested come conference season to try it out and see, can it capture some of this information so that then if they're my lead, great, I can take it back and, listen to it again and or read the review or read the intent or whatever. But also if it's somebody else's lead, I'm not just saying, well, Stuart came to the booth. He's from Mayo and he wants to know about blah, de blah.
Yeah.
When really the conversation was about this or that or the other or our AI tool or this tool or the coding tool or, whatever the thing may be. It'll be interesting to see. I will say with all of these generated notes and transcriptions and to-dos and everything, there is still an element of self-organization that you need. And if you don't have a well-organized Outlook or whatever your email of choice is, if you don't have a well-organized OneNote or your note-taking platform of choice, you're still going to suffer. Because if you are in sales, unless you are a strategic account exec with one client, which is very, very rare nowadays, right? Because it's really only the big ones that can afford to do that with the staff that they have today. You have at least half a dozen clients, if not 200, 300, lots and lots. And so I think it's so important if you have not taken the time to figure out a organizational structure that works for you. For me, I'm a OneNote girl. I have a OneNote for every single one of my clients, and I have different sections in there. And I've rinsed and repeated this at so many different companies now. But I know when my shit is. I know that if I need to see all of the QBR decks from a certain client, I know exactly where to go. And guess what?
Well,
I still have them for all my old companies as well. So if one of those comes back around,
you're good.
I know.
Well, one of the things I've noticed is absolutely, I think you and I have both spent a lot of time in corporate entities in the US where Microsoft Office is king. That's the system of record and production for any of those kind of administrative activities. And that's obviously grown and grown and grown as Microsoft have bolted more stuff into that ecosystem, whether it be SharePoint.
You want a Copilot in your Excel? Gosh. Here you go. How about a Copilot on your OneNote? How about a Copilot here?
Would you like? Yes. Well,
Copilot.
No, let's not do that because unless we're going to advertise my 20 years experience is greater than your Copilot, you can buy that T-shirt on the Haverin About store. I think that
Look,
what I was
Copilot
about
helps to
say,
pay my house's bills. I'm not going to shit on Copilot. Copilot is great. Everyone should get Copilot.
No. ChatGPT for the win. Oh, sorry, no, I'm a Grok person. No, what I was about to say is I have noticed so many people from an organizational perspective moving to Notion. Notion has become this subversive thing. And I think it was very much on the kind of creative and sort of engineering developer world and very much out of Europe, there seems to be kind of a lot of adoption of Notion. Partly, I think, because Microsoft Office platform enterprise level is very expensive for a lot of companies, but also because it's like Lego bricks. The concept of Notion is that. So I think that as you move between different companies, it'll be interesting to see that sometimes the core tools that you're used to for production aren't the tools that you'll be using going forward. And I think AI is going to change and drive a lot of that, because Notion are very, very flexible. With our dear friends at Microsoft, you're buying into the monolith, quite literally the monolith. Whereas I think Notion are trying to be much more expansive and much more freewheeling in terms of, what you can do, not only in the way the software works, but also how they're dealing with integration.
Can I throw in a hot take here at the end? Sorry.
Go on. Give me your hot take.
Google Drive, it's trash. Trash. It's so bad. It's so clunky.
Yeah.
Maybe I've only worked for companies or worked with organizations that use it really crappy and it's secretly magical, but it's trash.
Yeah.
That's my hot take.
Thank you
very much.
I've never been a big fan of the G Office suite. I know that we have Gmail because free email is free email for a variety of reasons. And
RIP Hotmail. I mean, it still
RIP,
exists.
yes. Yeah, my Hotmail account became an MSN account, became
Live or something.
Yeah. Anyway, the long story short on all of that is there are a lot of tools out there that are available. I haven't mentioned, for example, yet, but I'll probably end up I'll do a Stuart's Havers about mind mapping and about my favorite mind map tool, which is AYOA, AYOA. It is amazing. I know the people, they're in Wales, they're a small company. I've been associated with them for about 15 years. I've worked with them, as in consulted with them. I've studied with them, and it's just a great little tool set. And Chris Griffiths, their CEO, has just announced that they are introducing a new mind mapping product, because EO is also a productivity task product as well as mind mapping, but he's introducing something new to replace, and this will be something that you'll recognize, iMindMap. So iMindMap isn't coming back, but a successor to is, in terms of a pure visual mapping and visual thinking tool set. So I'm very excited and hoping I get early access to that. And the reason I bring that up is I'm a huge fan of visual thinking, whether it is a whiteboard and 4-colored dry markers or flip charts or anything like that. Get up and actually create something physically yourself, right? It is so empowering to your brain to do that. So, and particularly think about using visual representations, whether that's charts, it lights up your brain in different ways. And I love nothing more than standing in front of a 10, 15-foot whiteboard with those pens to just dump stuff out of my head and see it all in one place.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a vastly underrated tool, particularly whether you are doing account brainstorming with a team, whether you're doing a strategic account review,
journey,
a deal review, you're doing territory planning, whatever it might be. The virtual whiteboards on are nothing. Plus, everybody get in the same damn room. Try. I know we're all spread across the country. I know, but it is hugely empowering, I think, and incredibly good for team interoperability, human interoperability, to actually get in the same physical space and work on a problem.
So visual kind of dumping of your information is sort of your warm, fuzzy call to action. And mine is tied into your last point. The best research, HISTalk is great, Becker's is great, Definitive is great, KLAS and Black Book are great, OneNote's great, Google Drive is trash. These are all great, but the absolute best resource that you have is each other.
Absolutely.
That's sort of why we started this podcast, because the two of us just talk about this shit all the time. And that's great. And it's nice to be able to just verbalize what you're thinking about things sometimes, whether it's something that's happening in the industry, like a weird government thing, or Epic doing a weird thing, or someone's announcing a weird merger, or whether it's just a problem you're trying to work on, whether it's where you're taking your next career move, an issue that you're having with a boss that's being creepy, whatever the thing may be that you need to figure out.
Yeah.
Get your little trusted peer group. And I love that I have probably a dozen people that I could call right now and they would pick up and I could ask them anything. And some of them are former bosses.
Yeah.
Some of them are former kind of mentees, people that I have mentored and I've managed and led and kind of watched grow up. Some of them are clients that I just worked so closely with that I know that if I have a question about how a hospital might deal with something, I could reach out to them. So all the tools in the world, at the end of the day, as Dad said earlier, sales is a contact sport. You've got to be talking to people. You've got to be seeing people, whether that's virtually, which is wonderful, whether that's in person at conferences or in their hospitals or in their buildings, connecting with people and and doing a mix of talking and listening.
Yeah.
You got to do both. It's got to be a two-way street.
And I think, just like I was espousing earlier on, developing that human connection that allows somebody to have trust in you when it's a customer is so important. It's equally important with that network. They've got to sort of have a degree of trust in you and a faith in you and broadly like you. So therefore, try and maintain and develop those relationships. By maintain, I mean, call them for no reason. Call them because you're on a drive and you're like, hey, want to catch up? Now, sometimes you may not, get them on the first go or whatever, but just reaching out to them and leaving them a voicemail will often get them, they will respond, or they'll come back, or they'll send you a text and say, oh, sorry, I missed you, but, let's try on such and such. So I think that it's really important to put the effort into maintaining those relationships, even if it's not you asking for something, or looking for something. Sometimes it's just keeping that connection open.
Yeah. My Christmas cards should be arriving today with a cute photo of PJ, and they're very pretty. I'm excited to see them. Yeah. I love that when I was going through the addresses of people to send them to, there's tons of former clients and colleagues that are on the list. Yeah. And I love that. I mean, maybe they hate getting them, but I usually get them from them as well. So it's a two-way street, right? But I think that goes back to the very beginning of this conversation. All the tools and the apps and the everything can help to make our lives easier. It can help to make our jobs more enjoyable and more effective, so you can sell more and make more money, right? We're a health tech sales podcast. We're all about closing those deals.
Yep.
All of these tools are wonderful, but at the end of the day, it's the people, it's the human connection, and making sure whether that is making the little magical memory on Christmas morning for your 5-year-old, where she's going to go, oh, I told Tinsel the elf that I wanted this, and this turned up. How magical. Yeah. Never mind that it was the Nordstrom app and the UPS app and the garage door opener app, and the text to the stepkid to say, quick, go get that package and bring it in without her seeing. It's that human magic, right? Yeah. And so what a wonderful world that we live in, that we have all of this technology at our disposal.
What a wonderful world.
What a wonderful, it's a wonderful life.
It's a wonderful life, I think.
Yeah.
And on that happy note, I wish all of our listeners, if you're listening before Christmas, then we wish you all of the season's best and a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. A happy Hogmanay for anybody that's listening in Scotland or that cares about my Scottish culture.
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah. Kwanzaa. Happy to anybody who is enjoying the season, the winter season.
Happy snow.
Happy snow. And so until the next episode, keep havering.